Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Catholic Truth Podcast and Catholic Truth Family, where we help you to find love, relationships, and happily ever after. Whether you are single, dating, engaged, or married, we want you to find the advice you need to help you to flourish in your relationships and to find really that happily ever after that people strive for and to avoid common pitfalls that people fall into that help you, well, really keep you from finding love. So on this channel, we talk about all of that and more. And as you know, we have Julie Loin with us many times. She is no stranger to our show. And she's going to be talking today about difficult kids. That's our topic. Parents, we want to give you some encouragement if you have a difficult child all over the board. It could be a special needs child. It could just be a high needs child. It could be just 5 crazy children who are never nonstop all day. Like I was talking to my neighbor downstairs yesterday, and she has 2 children, but it's like having 5 because they're all energy all the time, and they never stop from like 7 in the morning till 11 at night when they go to bed. And she's like, I have to put them in daycare or I won't live. Like I will literally die. So, yeah, like parents have it tough. And my wife and I have a high needs child, and we say that's like having 3 children in one, and that's no exaggeration. And I know Julie struggled with some, difficulties in parenting in her life. So in this video, we really just want to give you, first of all, encouragement, hope, to let you know you're not alone, to let you know that there are many other parents out there struggling with the things that you're struggling with, and maybe some tips and advice of how we've dealt with our difficult situations and how we've got through. How does that sound to you, Julie?
That's perfect. I love how you said you're not alone. I think parents think that they're the only ones who have a difficult child, and they're like, pull it together. So I think that is a really good way to start this is you're not alone. Everybody struggles with this, whether like Bryan said, you do have a high needs child or you just I have so many friends who have like 8 children. That alone is difficult. So I think across the gambit, we have difficulties in parenting.
Yeah. And nobody tells us about this. It's supposed to be, nice, flowery paths and sunshiny parks and just, roses everywhere. And no, I mean, people say your life's going to change when you have kids. People always say that, but I don't think you realized how much it was going to change. And I was expecting it to change a lot, but then I had a high needs kid and that derailed everything. And for anyone who might be watching this, who might have a high needs child, they're also called dragon babies, as you will know, because of their fiery temperament. And I'm going to be doing a whole show is just on how to deal with dragon babies because it's virtually impossible. I think I may have said on another show or with Julie at another time, like we knew our baby was different from day one when everybody in the hospital had their babies whimpering, and you could hear ours down the farthest hallway. And it was a long hallway, screaming bloody murder. And we brought her home. You already have no idea what to do with this thing. And she's screaming bloody murder. It's like a colicky kid, but it didn't stop after the typical 3 months. It kept going. And if we didn't have her parents here for 4 months, I don't think we would have made it through life. Like if I had there are 12 characteristics of a high needs baby or a dragon baby. And all babies have some of these traits, but dragon babies have all of these traits. And they're known for being overly clingy, overly sensitive, overly temperamental, overly intense, overly over and over and over. You get the point, but we'll go over these in another video. So for example, we met a dragon baby mom the other day, and she totally got what we were talking about. She was like, if I put my baby on this shoulder, he would cry like he was being murdered. I said, yes, that's what my kid did too. If I switched shoulders, she would cry like she was being murdered. If I patted her instead of, rubbed her, she would cry like she's being murdered. Every time we put her down to change her diaper, cried like she's being murdered. It's like family picture. We want to hold her forward so she could see, cried like she's being murdered. So a lot of our pictures like, she's just like crying. So it's like my wife was like literally kind of having a mental breakdown, and like I should have had her on this show too. But
Yeah, you actually should. I was gonna
shows.
say you should have her on for one of these episodes for like this.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to. And so it's like someone gave us really good advice at the beginning of our marriage when we had kids. And it's a phrase that I want to give to all parents, and it's called this too shall pass. This was like our living motto. No matter what happened, no matter how crazy she got, no matter how difficult it was, this too shall pass. And everything did pass. It took like 6 months for her to start getting used to life, 8 months to a year to her finally like settle down into like a normal human being.
Yeah.
And even nowadays, she's still, a very intense, dragon, toddler. But, they say that these kids go on to change the world, because they're very strong, and if you can channel that correctly and help them to deal with their strong emotions, they really can be world changers. So at least that's what they tell us, maybe to make us feel better.
That's right. That's
But
right.
that's, I'm just kind of giving you the skeletal outline of what my wife and I have had to deal with a difficult child. One more thing before I let you share your general outline of what you struggled with. Our baby was my mom, my wife went to this a baby wearing group, where they just meet up and try different carriers and they put their babies in them to see which ones they like. And there were like 10 women there and all their babies were sitting in carriers. Sophia got in a carrier for about 1.5 seconds and started screaming like she was being murdered for the entire time. You couldn't change her. Like, it's just crazy. And so, I mean, we're talking restaurants, we're talking life. Like, we were that family. Like, why can't they control their baby? And so
Yeah.
it's like mortifying. She would only go to sleep after midnight on the couch, on my wife, sucking from the breast, and could not sleep otherwise and refused to sleep otherwise. So my wife isn't like a superhero, she's a saint that she did that for 2 years till I finally said, enough is enough. You are being cut off cold turkey because you can't sleep without it. It's becoming an addiction now. And so
Yeah.
I spent the next week and a half awake for 2, 3, 4 hours in the middle of the night, just breaking her of that. It's tiring. You're exhausted. And then, but I mean, our baby's wonderful too. I'm going to have her on the show sometime too. Cause she, you know, contrary to the dragon baby temperament, she's the sweetest, cutest, like loveliest little thing. She's like so smart, so intelligent, so caring, so in tune with your emotions. Like if I'm a little upset, she's like, Daddy, how are you doing? And I'm like, she just
Oh.
knows, she feels it. And so, it's like she's super cute too. But this episode's about the difficult sides of that. So that's me. I've talked enough. Share with your side, Julie.
Okay, I've never had a dragon baby. I had the classic, colic baby, our firstborn. And I remember being like, I don't know what I'm doing. When it's your firstborn, you're just in survival mode. Cause like you said, Bryan, no one really tells you what's happening and what you're supposed to do. And he wouldn't take a bottle. He wouldn't nurse. It was just a nightmare. So we ended up literally having to feed him with a syringe. It was like a tube syringe for like probably the first 2 weeks of his life. And I was just like, this is crazy. And he screamed bloody murder. But we did have a little end in sight. And that was actually my favorite advice as well was this will pass. They go through these things, but it will pass. And I didn't hear that with my firstborn. I just was like, this is my life now. I will never sleep again. I will never be joyful again. I will be crying all the time. And but yeah, it did pass. It really did. And we went on to have a very easy baby, Felicity. She was like a dream child. I remember folding laundry one time and when she was like a few months old, and I just kind of set her down next to me and was making like faces at her. And I look over and she's like sleeping on the floor. And I was like, oh, okay. That's like Peter, I would not have been able to put down. Like I had to hold him. So I went from having drastically different children, but then we find out in our own way with Felicity, we had just a lot of difficulties in so many other ways. We started seeing signs for things around 6 months. We started seeing, could she hear us? Can she actually hear? And so I would do these little tests and she wouldn't turn around. She wouldn't respond. And so finally we went and got a hearing test done and turns out, what's that? It was so scary. For some reason, Bryan, your sound is actually off. There we
Oh,
go.
I'm sorry.
No,
My
that's
bad.
okay.
I was saying that, yeah, that sounds so scary.
Oh, it was terrifying. And as a parent, you're like, we knew different things were off. We could tell she had kind of low muscle tone. Her face, I actually, when she was born, I kind of was like, is she Down syndrome? And I couldn't tell because of her muscles. But so we brought her to get tested and it turns out for the first like year of her life, it was as if she was living underwater. Like she could not hear anything. So we finally got tubes in her ears around like a year and a half.
Mm.
She started birth to 3. She had a serious speech delay, which we were like, well, she'll grow out of. And she never did because she has she has no closure in the back of her throat to make certain sounds. So she couldn't talk, like she was actually mute. And so we had a surgery done about a year and a half ago for her. And so like the list goes on and on and on. You know, she had throat surgery, pharyngeal flap surgery. She had a craniofacial team, which who knows even what that means? You know, all these things I know now that I'm like,
My life sounds good.
so like we're meeting with like doctors upon doctors to figure out what's going on. And she's constantly every week going to PT, has speech, OT, eye therapy because her eyes are very weak. And so those are my difficulties. But I will tell you this with her. The gift that God gave us with her is that her temperament is she doesn't despair. She doesn't get frustrated. Like my firstborn will get very frustrated. He's very competitive, very go-getter. She is very like, this is what we're doing. And she goes along with things. And I feel like a lot of kids who might have special needs, who have learning disabilities or whatever it is, can get mad and they throw things and they throw tantrums. And I don't know if
That's
Lissy's ever
Sophia.
thrown a tantrum. Yeah, I don't think
Wow.
she's ever thrown a tantrum. So I feel like God gave us a lot of difficulties, but then blessed us with her very sweet, calm nature. So that
Yeah,
was helpful.
Sophia doesn't just throw a tantrum. She has to be the biggest tantrum on the block because she's the dragon baby. In fact, my wife was mortified recently because she threw the tantrum because she didn't want to leave the store. And she refused to get out of the carriage. She was in there and she was holding the bar, and my wife could not pry her off that bar. And so she just walked outside to get out of the store and have everyone stop looking at her. And so she's out in the parking lot, and she still can't pry her off. And a stranger comes by. He's like, "Would you like help, ma'am?" She's like, "I don't think so." He's like, "How long have you been at this?" And he's like, "Let me help you." She's like, "Okay." She was like totally mortified. And he had to like pry the girl off and give it to her. And it's like, that's our baby. And my wife's so embarrassing. But
Oh, it's
yeah,
so
it's very
hard.
difficult.
And I think that's a good testament to us as parents, not to judge other parents, because it's very easy to see that child tantruming and being like, oh, pull it together, parents. And I think we have to step back and try
Try
to
some
figure out,
discipline in your parents' life and your kids' life. You have to discipline them, and all this stupid advice when people don't even know what's going on in the first place.
that's right. That's exactly right. And even for like Felicity, I have a hard time sometimes because she has a processing delay. Where if you say something to her, it's going to take a second for her brain to kind of compute what's happening. It's taking me a very long time to be patient with that because it's like, ugh, it's really hard. But for other people who meet her, they're like, you know, they get offended by her because she's not responding. Like, hi, Felicity, how are you? It's not just like a simple question. It's going to take her a second to be like, how do I respond to this? Do I make eye contact? How do I go about this question? So she has to process even a simple question, or like, I can't really give her too many two-step processes. Felicity, go upstairs, go get this towel so we can go swimming outside. We got a little blow-up pool. And if I do too many steps, she'll go upstairs and kind of feel lost. So it's reining in her abilities, but also pushing her. And I think a lot of parents need like motivation to say, no, it's okay to push them to a little bit more. You know, they can do it. And we haven't had a diagnosis with Felicity. No one can figure it out. We've done genetic testing. We've done it all. And I'm almost grateful for it because it almost keeps me from putting her
So
in
weird.
a bubble. It's crazy. It's actually like really crazy. So it keeps me from bubbling her though, putting her in this bubble of like, this is what you're capable of. And it's amazing. Like she's starting to add, she's starting to subtract, she's starting to really want to read. And I'm like, oh, good. Okay. I can push you, you know?
Absolutely. And I think we should anyways. It's like, I mean, they say that dragon babies are, I don't know if they're actually smarter than most kids or if they're just emotionally more intelligent, but our baby seems both. And so I'm trying to push her anyways, using the gifts that she does have. I mean, most kids at 1.5 can't even speak much at all. And she was speaking English and Spanish,
Right.
like, and now she's like 2 and she speaks both fluently. It's like our next door neighbors' kids are like 3 and they just still don't speak. We have kids who are 4 and can't even quantify shapes and colors. They can't point to certain letters. She knows all of them. She can just look at 5 blocks and be like, oh, those are 5 red triangle blocks at 2. And I'm like,
Right.
most 4-year-olds can't do that. And on a dime. And so she's incredibly smart. She has so many gifts as well. And I think we need to not lose sight of the gifts that our kids have just because of the other side. Everyone has parts of themselves, as we said. Maybe it was I think it was a video I actually did on my own recently on self-esteem. We all have good aspects of ourselves, and we all have parts of ourselves that we don't like. But the key to self-esteem is not to focus on the parts that we don't like, but to really focus on those aspects of ourselves that we do like, and to really try to grow those and foster those parts and really use them to change the world in some way.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, it's very difficult. And I think you could probably agree with this, that it affects your spiritual life too. I graduated from college like 20 years ago, and I prayed for an hour every single day before I even left the house. I also did rosary, did my Mercy chaplet, did like night prayer at night, plus, examination of conscience. So I'm praying like 1 to 2 hours every day for 20 years. Then I have a dragon baby, and I'm like lecturing other people on how, during my talks, because I'm a speaker, I'm like, you need to find time for prayer. And now I'm like, I have this ridiculous baby that's like 3 crazy babies in one. And I can't even think. I can't even focus. I can't sleep. And it's like, I'm trying, where did my spiritual life go? And
It's so
she's
true.
she's 2.5, and I'm still trying to get it back.
Yeah, and I don't think you'll ever get it back the same way, and I don't think we're supposed to. And I think
Right.
that's the beauty of spirituality, is it pushes us and we grow. And when God throws things at us, he doesn't want us to stay in the same boat. And I feel like your spiritual life has probably grown, even though it might not seem like it, just in the sense that you're constantly giving this child to God. You're constantly being like, I am being tested, I'm being pushed to my limits. And in this moment, I'm going to choose not to scream at this dragon baby. I'm going to choose to remain calm. And that is the grace of God. And absolutely we get things back. And I feel like now that my kids, like I have a 2-year-old up to a 10-year-old and a baby on the way, and I feel like I've gotten a different spiritual life than I ever had before in different ways. And it's always evolving, always changing. And it's even like I'll just be sitting outside with the kids and I watch them and I'm like, thank you, God. And so it's those moments where I'm too tired to actually like sit and do a rosary, or I'm too tired to sit and do like whatever it is. My brain like can't keep up. Like I'll try, like I'll be like, Hail Mary, and I just like,
I
I like
totally know
forget what
what you
I'm
mean.
doing. I like forget. And I'll sit
Totally.
outside with the kids. Like I remember sitting on our front porch and I had my rosary and the kids are out front playing. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to pray a rosary. And of course, then the kids are all wanting to like guess the next car color. And like, we're playing games. And I was like, no, this is my prayer, playing with the kids and interacting with them. I have my rosary beads and I'll say the Hail Mary as much as I can, but that's it. And I feel like that God blesses as well. Scott Hahn, I think, had a moment where his life was chaos. He had young kids and he had a holy hour. He wanted to go to holy hour. He was like, I haven't prayed yet today. And he was about to leave his wife with all the kids. And God stopped him and was like, this is your holy hour. Go be with your children. And it was like this realization of, yes, those moments are good when we can spend an hour with God. And those are necessary for our souls to grow and all that. But sometimes our holy hour is with our family and our children, as difficult as it is.
Yeah. I remember my baby doesn't sleep, when she was younger, and she's 2.5 now. She's just starting to sleep through the night. So it's crazy. So if you have parents who have struggles, the sleep regressions are insane, especially with dragon babies. But if you're struggling with sleep regressions, if you're struggling with teething, all of it, it'll pass. It does pass. But, I remember just trying to walk her because she wouldn't lay down to sleep. So I had to walk her to sleep, even if it took 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And so I would just be praying the rosary, like over and over and over out loud, so that one, I wouldn't fall asleep myself. And number two, it might lull her into maybe falling asleep as well. Or I would do the Divine Mercy chaplet, so I would try to find creative ways to pray. And, even nowadays, I feel a little bit farther away from God. So I've been trying to sacrifice and go to bed earlier and wake up earlier so I can take that extra time in the morning, quiet time just for myself, because I need that. And I need time with just God. And so I have to sacrifice to make that happen. But I feel better throughout the day because of it. I feel more peaceful, more loving, more gentle, more, able to deal with the situations that arise when I do that. And so That's been helping, you know, and I've been trying to take little times, you know, at night too, here and there, instead of watching TV like I normally would. If I have a night off on my own, like last night, I just walked outside for 45 minutes on my own and just thought about God and just tried to cultivate that silence. And I need more of that in my life. At other times, I might just have time for morning prayer, or I might just have time just to say some morning prayers, and then I'll have to wait till later on. Like most of my plan consists of waking up early, getting ready for prayer, sit down, make the sign of the cross. I'm about to be all holy and like I'm
You're right.
awake. No, like so many times, my whole morning prayer lives have been just thrown off because she has this incalculable, uh, uncanny knowledge of whenever I'm about to do something important, she's just going to wake up. So, and that goes for going to bed too. As soon as I put my head on the pillow, she wakes up somehow and starts screaming. I'm like, how does she know?
She
And so
knows.
I've had a, I've had to learn to do what you do, like pray when I can, consciously make prayer times. I know you and your husband does that too. You guys pray as a family, but really to offer this sacrifice and all of these sacrifices, these frustrations, even the cross of not being able to pray when I want to, offering that to God as a gift of love.
Yes,
And that
exactly.
has been huge for me. And I've only learned it of late, but I've really been trying to offer every single thing I do to God because Christ said, unless a grain of wheat dies, uh, what does it say? I just totally blanked out on the rest of it. Something like you can't have like life unless the grain
Right.
of wheat dies.
It needs to
So
die,
unless
right?
you die to yourself, Jesus said, unless you pick up your cross and follow me, you have no life with me. You're not worthy of me. So all of these, the cross is the way to heaven. And literally Jesus is handing us the way to heaven through the cross if we accept it and if we offer it back to him out of love. And that's what I'm trying to do right now is offer him this cross. Every aspect of my day, I'm just trying to offer up to him the dishes, the vacuuming, the crazy crying, the I don't understand why she can't just listen to me and do what I say. You know, like I don't
Yeah.
understand why it's taking her an hour to go to sleep every night in this strange sleep regression at 2.5. But I'm just trying to pray. I mean, if she's being put to bed and I'm sitting there by her crib, I'm not going to scroll my phone. I'm going to not all the time unless I'm falling asleep, but I am going to take at least some of that time to pray in silence and just be there and just offer it up to him. And so that's what I've been trying to do is literally just make everything I do a prayer and an act of love for God. And I'm hoping that, you know, it's helping.
Yeah, that was a big trick for me is not scrolling on my phone while putting the baby down. I used to kind of find the excuse of like, well, I'm just going to look at my phone while I'm nursing or whatever. And then I started making that my prayer time. And what a trick that was because how many times I was in prayer and just in that quiet dark room with the baby, I was able to find God in such a deeper way than I ever thought
Mm,
possible. Like I remember
mhm.
I remember this moment where I all of a sudden God was just like, I just need you. And it this like weird image of like and not really image I know some people see like things or they hear God like I'm not like that. I just had this like this thought of like this girl out in a field and she grabs like some grains and throws them in the wind and God took the grains and planted them where he wanted them and then he brought the waters and the sun and he did the rest. And God's like, I just need you to throw the grain. Just be a part of my plan. I don't need you to throw the grain, but I want you to. And it was like, okay, I'm just going to give you the little bit I have. And I think that's all he wants from us is he wants us to step into the adventure of having children. He wants us, even though it's going to break us. 100% having children will break you for the better. And
For the
and
better.
for the better. And you become so much selfless. Life becomes about them. It becomes hopefully mostly about God and your spouse. But having those children teaches you so much more. It pushes you to this level that you never thought possible. And one thing that my husband and I were talking about last night is the children that you have, God has created so specifically. So your dragon baby, my colicky baby, my special needs child, my all the above,
Oh,
they're
God bless you.
all made for such a unique role. And we can't like I remember thinking, well, if I just bring Felicity these appointments, if I just get her these speech therapies, if I bring her to the eye therapist, she'll be the little perfect like daughter. You know, like I have this image in my head of like the perfect kid. And you have to let that go because that's not who God made them to be.
Mhm.
And he has such a plan for a fiery child. He has such a plan for a pious child. He has such a plan for high needs child. he has the perfect plan, and we have to foster that. And like you said, Bryan, you kind of have to help them, guide them, and mold them. That's our job as parents. But we also have to let them be who they are and not try to force them into this like social construct of like, the Sound of Music when you have the kids all lined up like all
Right.
pious, like
Exactly.
I had a priest friend be like, if I ever walked into a house and saw all the what is the family name? A Von Trapp family, all lined up like shortest to tallest, not saying a word. He's like, I would run away. He's like, I want the messy family. I want the chaos because that's life. That's beauty. Bring them to church. Bring them in the mess. And that's why, like, when I was thinking about this topic, it was like the messy truth of raising children. Like, it's messy, but it's so beautiful, and it's such an adventure that you don't want to miss out on, because what is there better than having children? Is there anything more worthwhile than bringing up children as best you can? We're going to mess them up. They're going to, they're going to have their problems because of us, but by the grace of God, we give them to God every day, and offer them in their uniqueness to God. So I don't know. I think a lot of people are fearful of the unknown of having children.
Absolutely. And that's our generation today is we fear having children. We fear, fear, fear. And my wife and I did too. So we're not exempt from that. I think my wife more than I for sure. I mean, she was very fearful. But then again, she's a woman. And, you know, kind of the MO of people of our culture today is to say that, if you're a woman and you have kids, your life is going to be over. You're going to die. You're never going to have any fun again. There's nothing that you're ever going to do that's going to be great. Get ready to suffer. And
Right,
just
right.
your life is over. And so many women fear this. In fact, Kathy's cousin had his wife had the same attitude. She's like, I don't want to have kids. She's like, I'm working. We'll have kids later in life. I'm like, no, you are a Christian woman. It's your duty to have children. She's like, but I'm so scared. I was like, I totally understand, but do you trust God or are you trusting in yourself? And she's like, she has 5 kids today. She said one was so amazing. She didn't want to stop. And then she had 2. She's like, equally as amazing. She's like, I just love it. I can't, she's like, I kick myself for waiting so long. And in fact, my wife and I waited a long time too. And my wife was like, I really wish I didn't wait so long. It's the most life-changing, most amazing experience of my life. She's like, the kids are the best thing. And they're the most difficult thing, but they're also the best thing. And every day, I'm going to have Sophie on this show, and maybe I'll go get her by the end of the show. But they're the best things, and they're just so cute, and they're so fun, and they're so funny, and they make you the best version of yourself after they break you. And I'm only learning that now, 2.5 years in. I'm finally, because I used to get so fiery mad at her and she'd scream for so long and I couldn't take it anymore. And many men or many women complain about men just being like, here, you take the baby. I can't take it anymore. And that's kind of how I was. You know what? But I had to grow up. I had to put on my big boy pants and I had to help my wife and not just be, I claim to be the man, men are stronger. Well, I was being weaker. I was letting her do the hard, dirty work while I can't take her screaming in my ear. And that literally is like deafening for us guys. We can't take it. And I hate it even to this day. But I had to suck it up and I had to do what I needed to do to help my wife. And she was suffering with the baby. So I needed to too. I couldn't just pass the buck and let her suffer extra. I had to be the man and actually help her out.
Mm.
And so I would challenge all men to really stop being selfish, stop being weak, and you really try to help your wife. Consider her. If you think you're suffering, she is too, but she's doing it more so. And yes, women are better at this. Women have bigger hearts. They have more patience, but God wants us to grow too. He wants us to become better. And I'm 2.5 years in, but I feel like I'm finally to the place where I'm not losing my temper. I'm not getting angry. And most times, even when I'm super frustrated, I can just take a deep breath and just let it go. It's just like, you know what? I'm going to offer this up to you, God. And I'm finally becoming more peaceful. And that means taking less video game time during the day. That means scrolling my phone less with her when I'm putting her to bed, because all of that stuff is still doing. And the more I'm doing, I'm still doing with her. And all that doing just builds up in me till it overflows. In fact, I'm reading a book how to raise a high needs child, a dragon baby. And it makes you take the test. So you can see where the baby gets all her traits. And so both parents take the test. And so I took it the other day. And at the end of it, I added up my score and it says, congratulations, you're a dragon baby parent or you're a dragon parent. And I was like, yep. I was like, I'm intense. I can be fiery, and
Yes.
I use this for the faith, to like really like preach the faith. Don't take no, don't compromise, and you can use it in a good way to change the world in some way. But on the other hand, if you don't learn to control it when it's out of control too, and that's what I'm working on right now is controlling those parts of me that can get out of control and really bringing myself to a place of peace in all situations even when she's screaming. And it's like last night, I was up for over an hour. My wife's sleeping comfortably because she's been so tired she doesn't even wake up anymore. And I'm dealing with this thing for an hour. And I say thing in jovial, like in love. But I'm dealing with her for an hour screaming. And it's like, like I go out to sometimes I go to the couch and like throw my phone or just get angry. But I'm like, I tell my wife, I was like, this is a step in the right direction. I'm getting angry outside of the room, just taking out my frustrations, not on her. I don't want to
Yes.
damage her with my anger. And so I'm doing it in other areas, but I'm also going to work on controlling it completely, and getting rid of the frustrations completely. And I'm doing that. And I'm happy with the progress that I've made. God's working on me.
And we're human too. I mean, there's after a while, you do have a breaking point. It's like the rubber band. You can only stretch so far before you snap. But it is a beautiful thing when you can step away. Like I remember someone gave me advice when your baby's screaming so bad and you're about to lose it, it's better for you to put the baby down, close the door, and leave them for a second before you do something stupid, right? So it's a good test of your will to say, I'm going to remove myself from the situation before I do something stupid to my child. So
But
that's
see, I
actually,
don't
I
do
think,
that. I'm like
oh,
I agree that that's the best thing to do, but I'm like a control freak. I'm like, I have an analytical mind. If I'm like, if I just do this, then they'll respond this way. And if I did do everything right, then everything will go right. And it's not until I realize, I mean, how many times do I have to go through this till I realize that doesn't work all the time?
right.
And you just have to walk away and try again.
And try again. That's right. Exactly. That is parenting. And I think just this idea of you going through what you're going through of like recognizing the dragon parent and realizing what you need to do, she's going to learn from that. And that's what
Yes.
like discipline in a sense is. It's that discipleship of like she's going to learn from you when you get really upset. Like I have a temper, so when I get really upset, it's easy for the kids to see that and then they can get really upset, and then I yell at them for getting upset. Like you can't yell at your siblings like that. And it's like, well, I kind of taught them that. So it's our job as parents to be that role model. And I know a lot of people are like, not a lot of people. Some people in our society will be, let your kids do what they want and let them figure things out for themselves. And I think that is just the silliest thing in the world. I think that's like, okay, so you're gonna let your kid eat whatever they want. You're gonna let yes, exactly. Brian's hitting his head. Like it I remember this is crazy. I hope we're not running too long, but I had a student when I taught morality. I taught seniors morality. Whoever thought that was a good idea is crazy.
I did too. God bless you.
Ryan, it was the craziest thing in the world. I was like, we need to start this like
Immorality.
freshman year or eighth grade. But anyway, so I'm sitting here teaching
Yes.
morality and I'm talking about children and yada, yada. And so the kids are like, they're giving me a hard time. And they're like, well, when I have kids, I'm gonna let them do whatever they want because that's what freedom is. I want to let them like be free and do whatever. And I'm literally staring at them like, I can't even like, what are you talking about? And this kid raises his hand, this boy, and he apparently, I did not know this at the time, had a kid. I had a senior in high school who had like a 2-year-old kid. And little did I know, it was a shock to my system. He goes, you guys are being idiots. You could never just let your kid run around wild. They need boundaries. They need discipline. He's like, what if he runs across the street? You're just going to let him get hit by a car? He's like, you guys are idiots. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit back and
Wow.
let him teach the class.
Wow.
But it's truth. I think a lot of people, they struggle with their kids, but they, and certainly temperament is one thing, but when it's a disciplinary thing, I think, parents want to let their kids be free, but they do need those boundaries. They need to feel like they know where they're going. They're not pushing. They know they can find that solid ground, that foundation in their family where they belong. And that's a really important thing too.
Absolutely. And they need to feel welcome. They need to feel loved. They need to feel and rules make them feel that way.
Yeah.
Discipline, like I learned this in school. Like if you want kids to like you, then be mean to them, be hard on them, and they'll develop respect for you. And then you not necessarily mean, but be firm, give rules, give boundaries and be firm in those and don't take any, CRAP. And so when they do that, they respect you. And then after they respect you, then you can develop that relationship. You can take it down a few notches. But if you just are nice to them and you want them to like you and you're just trying to be friendly, they see right through that. And what they see is you are easy. You're a piece of
Mm,
cake. I'm going to walk all over you. They could see it in a second. They read it in your eyes. My kids used to, like I said, hey, don't walk out the room. And they start walking out the room slowly. And they'd be looking at me in my eyes to see if I break. And I would hold my eye contact and I said, do not leave this room. Or I'd say, feel free to leave the room if you want, but you're going to have detention for the next week. Your choice. And I'd look
right.
at them in the eyes. But most people, they look away, they can't hold it, and it's like they could see that they're weak. Kids do the same thing. They can read us like a book. And so
Yes.
if you have that discipline at the beginning, you can really the kids respect that and then they listen and then you can develop that relationship better. And even when you lose it with the kids, every parent loses it, they get
Yeah.
frustrated, they get angry. What I try to do is if I do lose, and sometimes I really get mad at myself for it, um, I try to be extra gentle, extra nice as soon as I see her again, extra loving for extended periods of time so that she can see, even in marriage, they say you should have like 8 parts happiness and joy and good communication to 2 parts, maybe 3 parts fighting and issues. Problematic marriages are when it's like 5 and 5 or even 7 and 3, but you want to have mostly good and only a little bad. So if I can, lose my temper or do something bad once in a while, I want to over make that up with goodness and love and kindness because whatever I'm doing to her, I'm teaching her. And I don't want to be responsible for teaching her that other stuff. So I'm trying to also teach her the good stuff as well. I don't know if you do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think to go along with that too, follow through. A lot of parents have empty promises or empty, in a good way, empty promises, or they have empty threats. And kids, like you said, see right through that. You're not gonna get this if you do X, Y, and Z, or we're gonna read a book later, and then you don't follow through, and kids start realizing that I can't trust mom and dad. And it goes both ways, which I didn't realize. That's a new thing for me because I used to be very hard on follow through when it came to punishment. If you throw a book again, I'm going to take away these cars from you for the rest of the day. Or, something happened in our family where my oldest had to get the pool taken away, which is just a blow up pool, but something happened pretty bad. And I was like, well, you're done with the pool for the week and it's going to get really hot this week. Sorry. And it's like follow through. You have to commit or kids see through you and then they walk all over you. But it goes the other way too. If you make a promise to a child of a good thing and then you don't follow through, those are just the empty promises. And it's a
Mm.
really harsh thing for a child because they are looking up to you and they are learning from you. And we're going to make mistakes. And one thing that I've learned probably in the last few years is you can say sorry to your kids. We do blow up, and it doesn't mean
Not
that you
only
say
can you, you should, you have to.
you
It's
should.
mandatory.
It is
You
mandatory.
have to.
But I think a lot of parents will do the I'm sorry, but they don't do the other way because if you don't expect that apology from your child as well, it kind of obviously 2 years old is a little different, but having a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old, I'll say, I'm really sorry that I reacted that way. Mommy got too mad. I shouldn't have yelled at you, but here's why I got really mad. And I'll explain why it frustrated me, but I'll say like that, but mommy shouldn't have reacted that way. And then I'll say, do you feel, how do you feel about what you did? What did you do? And so it kind of goes back and forth between the two versus like, oh, the kid got off. Mommy said sorry. It was all her fault. So it goes back and forth.
Yeah, and I apologize to Sophia too sometimes, I'll tell her daddy was wrong, daddy, was not good, or whatever. I don't know if
Yeah.
she can understand at this age. So I said, I'm sorry and I love you, I was like, do you want to go play with me? And she's like, yeah, like, so, I try to be loving to her as well. And the older she gets, the more I'll explain it to her. Um, Man, I feel like we could have like several shows on this topic.
I
It's
know. I
coming to an
know.
end here and I have like so much more to say, but maybe we'll do a part 2 in the future. I know I'm gonna do whole shows on just, difficult, high needs children? What are the signs? How do you deal with it? Because I've been reading books and watching videos, and there's not a lot of information out there just because most people don't understand them. I think there's less than 10% of children. So we are going to be doing more shows on this. And I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom with 4 kids and 3 difficult ones that you've had to struggle with in different ways. So, maybe I don't know, you don't have a lot of time, but maybe, people can reach out to you and, ask for help or, or maybe if you guys have struggles, you can put them in the comment section below and, Julie and I will check up on it and, answer your questions and, try to help you the best we can. But feel free to please ask questions or please share if you're a parent with a lot of kids and you have a lot of wisdom and there's things we didn't get to cover in this or things that you've learned that work well, please, let us know in the comment section below. We would love to hear from you. But thank you, Julie, for joining us today. I'm so thankful for you coming on our show.
Thanks, Bryan. And yes, I second that. Message Bryan or I, whatever questions you have, we'd love to help you out.
Thank you all for watching this show. Please share it with others. Parents are struggling today, especially COVID, especially when they're being, since the COVID times when they've been stuck home and now everyone's working at home and they're around their kids a lot more. And it's like difficult how do you deal? So please share this with people. And if you're new here, please subscribe, please like this video, and please check out in the show description notes below all of our social media, Patreon, PayPal, and everything else. Thank you so much. God bless.
Hi everyone, my name is Kate. I'm the video editor here at Catholic Truth, and I just wanted to say on behalf of all of us, thank you so much for taking some time to watch our videos and learn more about your faith. You guys really make this channel possible, and we truly appreciate you being here. So thanks again, and God bless.